welcome to the Depot. Depot is the tennies way of preparing you for events and fights and all things in that manner. You can think of it like a training rather than a tryout or anything like that, but you will be passed or failed at the end. Don't think of it as a fail. It's just, we don't want to throw you in the deep end of the battle without you having any idea what's going on. You can see already if you hold tab, that is an absolutely overwhelming number of people. And if we just dropped you in that, I don't think you'd have too much fun. You've probably played a little bit by yourself maybe already. And you'll know that it's not particularly kind to single people fighting by themselves. And it's always more fun to fight with an organized group than a rabble. So this training will be covering, like I said in the announcement, our new training list, effectively. So, yeah, excuse any mistakes, excuse any miswordings. There are a couple things that we've changed from how it used to be. So I'm still kind of used to the old system, and everybody will be to an extent. So, yeah, just be patient with any corrections and things like that. If you do have any questions, you can just ask. You don't have to ask permission to speak or whatever. And if nobody is answering you, then just like wiggle around and jump like this until somebody comes over. Because I can't always see your speech bubbles and stuff. Alrighty. We'll be covering the basics first, of course. So some formations and drills and things like that, and then we'll go into some more advanced, unique to tenny things. And then we'll finish up with practicing some combat and things like that. And if we do well on time, then I will take you off into a real fight to practice and things like that, since I think that is the best practice. Anyway, first of all, we'll go over some very basic controls that you'll need. If the music is too loud for you, you can press Y on your keyboard, and that will open the menu. There's also a button in the bottom left that says, bottom right, sorry, that says settings. If you press that, you can drag the music slider up and down to however much you want, or you can mute it, obviously. If you right-click my name in Discord, then you can change volume and things like that if you're new to Discord. In-game, you can press Shift, and that will lock your camera to the middle of the screen. This is quite useful for combat and things like that. It is not the same shift lock, obviously, in other Roblox games, but it's there. And you can press C to crouch or stand, which we'll get into at another point. And I will show you the musket on your back later. So for now, just keep the musket unequipped. And we'll do all of that later. Don't worry about it. Alrighty, so first of all, we'll move on to the basic formations. Or faces, I guess. Not really formations. These are very similar to every other group. However, keynote is in tenny. They're always relative to the direction that you are facing. So if I give you the order to do a left face, that means you are going to rotate 90 degrees to the left, like that. Yeah, perfect. And then if I were to say do a right face now, you would just rotate 90 degrees to the right. So it's not like left face, right face. It's left face, right face. So it's always relative to the direction that you're already facing. So now if I told you to do a right incline, that's going to be a half turn. So you're at a diagonal. Perfect. And if I said to do an about face, that is a 180 degree turn. So we should now be facing at a diagonal. Yeah, perfect. And then left incline. So that should be facing straight now because we are at a 45 degree from our about face like this. And then we're doing 45 degree turn from the left incline like that. Perfect. We'll do a left face. Try to avoid copying people. It's better that you make your own mistakes so that, you can correct them. Cool. So if we do a right incline now, and about face, and about face again, and left face. So we should be at a 45-degree. And center face, which means face the side that whoever is telling you is on. There we go. So that's going to be straightforward. So if I said center face here, you would still be facing straight forward like that. However, if I say control face, we never actually use this in anything. That means stare directly at me, so control face. We obviously never use this in battle, but it's funny. You're supposed to spin around if I stand on top of you. Which is, yeah. I'm sure one day it'll be useful. But anyway, center face again. Alrighty. Before we go on to any formations, I'm going to explain what spacing is. Spacing is the distance between every soldier. So in Tenny, your normal spacing is going to be 1 arm's distance between everybody else. So Stinley there, you can see, has got his 1 arm distance between you. So now if we all just move apart from each other, so that we've got that 1 stud distance between us. So 1 shoulder, I should say, I guess. So make sure you've all got spacing. If you don't have spacing at any point, you can go to the end of the line. That's easier. Just to reset like that. There we go. You see, that's a much quicker way to reset the spacing and things like that. In any given formation, it's always better to give slightly more space than you need, because then it's easier to move together than it is to move away from each other. And things like that. Alrighty. So this formation here is called a single rank. It is a horizontal line of soldiers, the rank, and it is single because there is only one of them. If you were all to do a left face, do that now. Now that we are one behind another, this is a single file. Single, again, because there's one, but a file now because it's soldiers one behind another, like that. So obviously that's what we use for marching and things like that. And the rank is what we use for fighting. So if you do a right face again, just come back to normal. There we go. And make sure we're keeping spacing and things like that. You'll notice that when you are in 1 stud spacing like this, default spacing, you can rotate without touching anybody. And I will show you again, if you do a left face, you can see there's actually quite a bit more distance, front and back. So this is also the same spacing you should have front and back. I should be able to fit almost my whole character between you. And this will come very important later when we do multiple ranks and things like that. So anyway, if we do a right face again. So when we move between formations and things in a single rank, that's nice and easy. We can form on either side of the officer. We can form on the right or the left or in front. So at the moment you are formed in front of me, but if I were to walk over here and I said form a single rank on my right, you would all walk over, and the right is this side here. So if you form a single rank on my right, there we go. It's important you go to the correct side. So right when it's right, left when it's left. If you don't know the difference, that's okay. If you hold out your left hand, then it will make an L shape with your first and thumb fingers. You'll figure it out what I mean by that if you don't know already. But yes, very good. So the officer can leave the line. Unless you are told to move, you're going to hold still, basically. So I'm just changing something in my document because it's wrong. There we go. So now, if I were to tell you to form a single file behind me, you're all going to walk over and line up one behind another. But very importantly, you're going to make sure to keep that spacing like Bazaar's done. Yeah, so in other groups, this is called a single file line. And obviously in other groups as well, a single rank is called an STS for shoulder to shoulder, except we're not shoulder to shoulder, so we don't call it that. But yeah, so single file line, SFL, just like this, perfect. And so now if we do a left face, we should be able to go straight back into regular spacing. So you can see that nobody was too accurate with it. I'm Bad did a very good job, ironically. So if we all move across now to get proper spacing. So if you're ever told to fix spacing and things like that, it just means to, move around side to side or whatever until everybody's got correct spacing. It means an NCO or an officer is seen that you're in bad spacing. Spacing is very, very important for a lot of reasons, namely because it'll stop you getting shot so much in line battles and things, because you're a less attractive target. But also, it makes formations much, much easier to do because you're not stood on top of each other, which is very valuable. Anyway, if we do a right face again, you can now see the distance that we should have between each person. So try and remember this distance. Again, it's roughly enough distance for somebody to get their character through. Ideally, it should be. We're not too strict as long as there's enough. And the one stud is very much a guideline, but it should be held wherever it can be. We're not going to stop the battle or anything to correct it there. We can also march a line, of course. We don't have to just move by forming up or whatever. And now, whenever the line is marched, you will hear two orders. First of all, you will hear prepare to march or something like that, whatever. But first, you will hear forwards, and then you will hear march. When you hear forwards, that means you need to stop what you're doing. So cancel reloads, anything like that. Make sure you are facing the correct direction. And then when you say march, we're going to hold down W all together. So we're not going to move one by one. We're going to all go together. So company, forwards, march. And then we all press W as soon as you hear the word to march. Some people will lag. Some people will overtake. That's okay. And now when we're turning circles, we're not going to cut off. So if we're turning like this, you're going to follow the footsteps of the officer rather than cutting across. It is okay to overtake if somebody's lagging or whatever. We can't stop lag, so we won't account for it or anything. There we go. When we're told to halt, you're going to hear the same sort of thing. So you're going to hear prepare to halt and then halt. When you do hear halt, you're going to stop instantly, and then you're going to move down the line until you're in correct spacing. So that way we're not all walking into each other's backs. So prepare to halt, and then you can stop, and then once you've understood what's going on, you can then walk forward until you get correct spacing. And you can see there, and then if we fix spacing, so if you're at the back, you'll need to move further back. So you want to make sure that you've got a whole person between you when we're like this, remember? So like this, basically. So everybody move back. You guys need to have way more spacing here because we can't turn now to do our drills. So everybody move to fix spacing. I'm talking to everybody. So now if we do a right face, we can come back into our rank, and you can see some people overjudge the spacing. That's okay, because now we can just all move down to the left to fix spacing. You'll see why it's left in a bit, but now we can just move down until we're in correct spacing. So you want to be in arm's width apart from each other like that. So we're going to go over the musket now. Very, very fun. So if you all press 1, don't press anything else, but just press 1. You've now equipped the musket. This is in the skirmish mode, we're going to call it. We don't want to use this right yet, so we're all going to press F, and we'll go to shoulder arms, like this. So shoulder arms, the musket points straight up, and in skirmish mode, the musket is diagonal like this. So we all want to be in shoulder arms like that. There we go. You can always get back to shoulder arms by re-equipping the musket and pressing F, like that. This is how we use our musket in lines and things like that. And then skirmish you can use when you are skirmishing. Alrighty, so with this musket, if you've played campaigns, the controls are very, very similar. Otherwise, they are whatever. Oh my god. No, not Nord, Warsaw. Anyway, also bring him out the way of the depot. There we go. So if we all left click, we will be making ready. So this is the order to make ready. There we go. And then present by pressing F. And you'll see it takes aim for you. And now if you left click, you will fire. There we go. Good trigger discipline, everybody. Very good. It's always best to fire late rather than firing at the wrong time. Because if you fire late, then you'll be firing a couple milliseconds late. And if you fire early, then, that could ruin your chances of getting a good kill. Yeah, the targets are a little bit broken at the moment because you can't stab them, but that's okay. Right, we'll do the same thing again. So if we all make ready and present and fire. There we go. We automatically reload in the tenny because we are light infantry and we're cool. And we also only fire when we're told to and only aim when we're told to because it's very, very, very easy to misfire with these guns. Now, we're going to try out the skirmish mode. So if you all press F to go back to skirmish mode. So now, if you don't do it yet, but if you so much as tap the left mouse button, the gun will fire. And you have to be really, really quick and right click before that if you want to cancel it, which is hard to do. So the best thing to do is just to not left click until you're pointing your cursor to fire. In real life, you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire the gun. So in game, you could just not put your finger on the left mouse button. All right. So now we're going to hold down left click to take aim. There we go. And you can see the cursor drags across the screen. It's accurate to where the bullet will go. And fire. Just let go. Okay. So skirmish being quite a volatile and prone to mistakes, we don't really use inline and things like that. But I'm going to show you anyway, just because it's really, really useful. So hold fire until you're told to fire next. There we go. And we'll go back to shoulder arms by default. That might be changed in future. But yeah, so make sure in shoulder arms. Also, if you didn't hear, do not aim in until you're told, until you're actually like engaging a target. Don't aim in because it's annoying sometimes to have to wait for people to reload or whatever if we're trying to do something. On the subject of holding fire, though, when you are told to fire at will, you do not hold fire. Fire at will means that you shoot the enemy in your own time, taking time to aim and things like that. So if you all fire at will, you can use whichever musket mode you like. But that means you're going to shoot the enemy targets in your own time. You don't have to wait for the order to do so or whatever. Just make sure you're putting down shots relatively quickly. Otherwise, you're going to die before you get any kills. There we go. Yeah, skirmish mode is new and experimental. Line mode is a lot more reliable, and it's what everybody is used to. So we'll be patching out skirmish mode bugs and nuances and things. But it is very, very useful, and I'll show you why. You'll notice as well it locks your camera when you take aim. So if we all hold fire now, you can get back to that camera by pressing Shift, and you'll see that when you zoom in and out, it will move your camera up and down as well. When you're aiming in this mode, the cursor is always accurate. So first or third person, this is different in our other games. So in campaigns, this wasn't the case, and we've finally got around to fixing it. Now, when you change your camera, the cursor will compensate. It's not in the direct center of your screen, you'll notice. So it will now be actually accurate to where the bullet is intending to go and things like that. So you don't need to worry about which perspective you're using. It should always be aiming for the dead center of your cursor. That being said, it's a musket. There's no promises that it will ever hit the center of that cursor in a given match or whatever. Anyway, so obviously we can march around the battlefield and, waddle around, form our lines and then rotate and whatever to fight the enemy. That's not a very efficient way to do it. It looks nice, but that's not it. So what we can do instead is we'll break this down to 2 steps. The first step is going to be everybody, if you follow me, and then what we're going to do. So NCOs back off because we won't be playing this. We're reforming and stuff. So now I could say form on me, and if I don't specify what side or anything, you're going to go to each side and try and keep it even. So I'm going to say form on me right here, and now we're going to stand on each side of the officer like that. And you can see, while spacing is not always perfect straight away, which we can fix later, it is much easier to form a line of 4 and 5 than it is to form a line of 10. And likewise, it's easier to form a line of 10 than it is to form a line of 20. This isn't surprising, but There we go. So forming and reforming is basically how we move around the battlefield. The officer will say move forwards, backwards, left, right, whatever, and they will say reform on me. This is in line battles, of course. And that just allows the line to move around. All right, so now if you're given the order to advance, this is basically going to mean you move in the formation as best you can. Straightforward advance means. So from here, if I said company, prepare to advance and advance, we'd all hold W like this. And then I'd say reform here. And we all move straight forward into a line. Ideally, if we did it perfectly, then spacing would be perfect. It will never be perfect because we're all going to move at a slightly different angle. That's okay. If you run out of spacing, like for example, if I was supposed to be here between Galvatron and Bert, I would just go, there's no spacing there. And before I try and push them aside or whatever, I'm just going to go to the end of the line and be a smart person like that. The smartest person, the biggest boy, whatever you want to say, is always the person that makes the room for their fellow soldiers. The problem solver, the thickest. If you want to say it like that, sure. Okay, so that is pretty much it for the basic side of things. We're going to be using these incorporated in everything else to teach you some new stuff. Now, this is the part where I might double back on myself and you'll hear a little bit of inner monologue. Again, we've never ever done this with actual depot before, only with staff. So we have no clue if this is understandable to somebody who's never seen any of the things before. But that is what it is. So if we fix this gap in the middle quickly, we're going to go back to just our single rank there in front of me. And so what I'm going to introduce you to is the left side stays still rule. This is quite simple. It basically means that the person at the front left of the line is always going to be the last person to move in any formation, aka they will never move. The person at the back right of a line is always going to be the person to move first. There are some situations where it requires this, but if there's ever any doubt, it will always be right most and then the furthest back, which you'll understand when there's an issue with it. You'll understand that. Yeah, I'll point it out when we get there. Anyway, if we do a right face, you will see this unlocks a whole world of ease, and it will make your life so much easier. Alrighty, so make sure you have done a right face, Silver. Anyway, forwards march. I'm just going to go over here. Okay, right. And prepare to halt, and then stop, and then move down into your incorrect spacing. So there should be no excuse to stop early. That means you started moving too soon, basically. So fix spacing and things like that. You should be fixing spacing as soon as we form up anywhere. The first thing you do should be fixing spacing. So Josh, you need to move back a bit because we need to rotate. NCOs, if you all go on the left side of the line. And then everybody do a right face. So now with our left side stays still rule, we know who needs to move where. So Josh, if you wiggle across slightly to your right, we're going to keep me on the left, or technically Silver on the left. Silver is the leftmost soldier. I'm an officer. I move around the line. But he is the leftmost person in the line. So we're going to move around Silver, basically. So now, the left side stays still rule basically means that we can keep track of who's supposed to be moving where. NCOs, back off again, please. You are way too close, everybody. There we go. And Xbox as well. There we go. So from here, this is a single rank. And if we were to form a double rank, which is 2 ranks, as you can imagine, the left side stays still rule dictates that Silver is going to be the anchor for the line. So everybody's going to be working around him. And what's going to happen is the person on the far right, the back right here, is going to step back and they're going to move all the way down behind the first person. And then so on and so on until the lines are even. So if you form a double rank, so I'm bad, you're going to step back. And then you will go, so I'm bad, if you step back. Yeah. Is this man? Let me see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he is. There we go. Cool. There we go. And then Zendra, if you do the same, remembering spacing and things like that. So I'm bad. If you stand right here, you'll be in correct spacing. Yeah, don't worry about it. And then Zendra right here, so you're in correct spacing. Step back a bit, Zendra. There we go. Perfect.
You don't want to breathe down each other's necks.
Yes, you will appreciate this space when there's like 100 people turned up. Not so much an issue at European events, but in Asian events, there's like 70 people, a good chunk at the time. And when there's 4 ranks deep, you can imagine it's quite a pain. Oh, so this is a very good example of what to do here. So when we've lost somebody from the line, imagine Silver's died or whatever, we're going to fill leftwards. So the left person stays still. There's no left person, so we're all going to fill leftwards, but we're not going to fill back and forth. So officers will manually move people between the lines if they want to or whatever. Not that we ever actually fight in this formation, but we're only going to fill in our line, whether that's a file if we're in a file or a rank if we're in a rank or whatever. Okay, perfect. So now if we do a left face, we're going to start speeding things up now. But if we do a left face, we'll be in double file, just like a single file, but 2 of them. And the same rule is going to apply. So from here, if I were to say form a single rank before we move, this is where it gets, this is where we need like the clarification. So who is going to move first? If you remember, I said it's going to be the person on the right at the back. So eats aggressively is on the left back, technically. So Bert is going to move first. So Bert, there we go. No, I'm stupid. Never mind. That's a dumb idea. But
yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, this is what I mean by the we need to discuss things like that.
You haven't hosted people in a long time.
Well, yeah, and I've never hosted one of these ones. Alrighty. So, I'll find a better way to say this rule in future. We might specify back first and then right. Oh. There they are. Alrighty. So yeah, we'll specify that it'll be the back first and then the right or whatever. I don't know. I'll update you in a chasseur training one day when you will pass. Don't worry about it. But for now, is Ray in the BC? One day we will not have this problem. Don't worry, guys. Hopefully you'll be long gone by then. Killing people. I'm going to respawn you as well, T Dodo. If you're in the line, then just come back, sorry. I don't think he was. Alright, so NCOs. Go away. You are too close. Too close. Move away.
How about they all fall in?
No, they're supposed to be taking notes on how to do trainings and things.
Yeah, but we have like 20 NCOs.
Yeah, they're all observing. It's like an open
they're all
surgery.
observing. Okay.
Alrighty, so we're going to form a single rank now, pretend nothing happened. So Eats Aggressively is going to move first. I said nothing before that. There we go, perfect. And now Bert is the back right, so now it's nice and easy. And then Galvatron, you're going to go next to Bert. So Galvatron, you come next to Bert on the right. There we go. And then Zendra, you're going to come onto the right as well in a second, but you're going to stay where you are first. So Josh, if you move over to the right now, and then Zendra, you can follow. So the reason we said that is because I'm Bad was at the front left, so he's going to anchor, and so he's always going to remain the front left. That's a good way to think about it. So if we were to then send people to both sides, then now I am the front left, and that has violated the rule. So yeah, if we do an about face now, So now I'm not going to point out who the front left is. You can work it out yourself. But I'm going to say to form a single file, which is fairly similar to what we just did. So I'm Badge, you're on the back right, you're going to move first. So you're going to step back and go behind Zendra. So if you come back, and then...
Yeah. We want to make a file. Remember, file is when you guys are behind each other.
So if you step back, I'm Bud, and then... Am I saying your name wrong? And then if you stand right here...
There we go.
I can't tell if it's an I or if it's a L or
L and Bad. And then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one.
But we're forming a single file, so we're going to line up behind each other. So Bizarre, come here. Single file, remember?
So one long line behind each other, guys. There we go. Perfect.
There we go.
Yeah, don't worry. This is why we do depot training, right? So you guys...
Yeah, it's better to make the mistakes, because then we'd never correct you for making them, and then you'd go through your whole career one day, general of a corps or whatever, and you still make that silly mistake.
Of course.
Everybody laughs at you. Sad. I'm not projecting. Anyway. We'll do another practice of this in a bit, but now, everybody forwards march. I just want to move further away from the fort because we're getting harassed by Teddy. Grr. All right, prepare to halt, and halt right here, and then reform the line as usual, like that. Anyone with a great coat, don't think about them, just ignore them, pretend they're not there. I do that all the time. Alrighty. So from here, I'm going to give the order to form a double file now. So the front left is Zendra. Zendra's not going to move. So if we're forming a double file, Galvatron, you're going to step to the right. And then you're going to move next to Zendra. There we go. And then so on and so on. So double file means two vertical lines. There we go. Perfect. So now I'm going to give you your... Oh my... The uniform table is different to remember it. There we go. Anyway, there's a page 0 and there's a page 8.
Now. What?
Well, you're wearing it.
Oh, no, wait, okay, I'm already in the Denny tab.
There we go. So, this is the beautiful Tenny Chasseur uniform. You don't get to keep this unless you pass, so I will be assigning you at the end of this. Under all future trainings, but if you pass, then you can have this one back, nice and cool. Cool green epaulets. You get a nice cord around your hat. If you unequip your muskets and press H for hat, you can take your hat off. Very nice. You'll see you'll get a bunch of controls. For example, I can turn my hat around, but you get far, far more. So if you mess around with those, you can see what they do. You won't break anything. You can have your hat how you like outside of events and things like that. Real personalization. Chin straps up or down, gang, and you can see as well, as Rocky's pointing out, we've got various other uniforms. So, for example, this is a uniform of the Carabiniers, and you can see a couple of them over there without their greatcoats on. This is a uniform of the Voltigeurs, who are our elite companies. I can actually say the Voltigeurs exist now, even though they technically don't. They're coming very, very, very soon. There we go. So, with the hats, I'm just going to assign myself very quickly. We are most interested in the company button. So, we will take our hats off. We click on the company button. You will see there is a variety of colors there. Now, we won't be using the last three, but we're going to split the line into what's called a section. So the whole line is always called a company, and each half of the line is going to be called a section. Now, you stay in the same section throughout the whole battle, and sections are used to make sure people are forming up on the correct side, and then in other battles, they're used to make sure that we can organize people a little bit more effectively. So everybody on the left, you are first section. Everybody on the right, you are second section. This has changed if you've ever attended an older depot. We have switched them around, but that's okay. So once again, first on the left, second on the right. So everybody on the right, if you change to a blue pom-pom. There we go. And then hat's back on. And I'm just going to change myself back to an officer. There we go. So now if I give the order to reform, we're always going to have green on the left and blue on the right, which again, other way around if you're old. But so reform on me now. So Galbatron over to my right. There we go. And Zendra onto my left. And then Josh, in future, we'd go in order as best we can. And then I'm bad, since you're green hat, you're on the left side, you're going to stay on the left side. Bizarre, if you take your greatcoat off, just because we're using that to show NCOs. Silver, you're back. Let me give you your temporarily new drip. And then if you press H, Silver, and change company to blue, you should be able to see how to do that. An NCO can't help you. There we go. So this is a company formation. Note the gap in the middle. This is very important because this is where the officer stands. But like I said, the officer can leave the line. Very nice. This is used in almost exclusively in line battles. It's kind of like the default formation. That's why we learned to reform and things like that. But if you all follow me, we can jumble ourselves up. So follow me. Break formation. We're going to walk around this way. And if I give the order to reform on me right here, you can all go to the correct side. So blue on the right, green on the left. There we go. Perfect. And you see, that is so much quicker. And now that you're getting good with spacing and stuff, we were ready to have a combat ready line in under a second almost. So not really under a second, but that's okay. What we can do now is we can march out in a double column. This sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but basically we'll do it in slow motion. I'm going to start walking forward and I will say march out in a double column. Zendra and Bert, you're going to follow me in a double file like that. Perfect. And then each line is going to follow on their color. So Josh, you're going to follow Bert just like that. Perfect. Yep. And then everybody else is going to follow on like that. And we get a really nice looking formation. If we do it at full speed, it looks amazing. So we're going to reform the line here. Whenever you're told to reform, that means it's going to be like reform in a combat line. If you're told to halt, that just means to hold the same formation, just to be clear on things. So green, make sure there we go. Should use first section really. All right, so we're going to do that march out in a double column at full speed now. You're going to follow on. So don't go behind them, but follow on when they go past you, if that makes sense. Imagine if you're on the left, the far left here, you'd be like following on like this and then going forward in that nice L shape. It looks beautiful when there's tons of people doing it. Anyway, march out in a double column, forwards, march. So I'm bad, you want to be behind, eat aggressively. Staying in your line. Oh, the right company is fallen behind. This is a good example of how if Bert keeps walking in a straight line and I start going like this, you're going to see Bert is going to overtake me. So you never want to actually zigzag and stuff. If you're trying to get somewhere quick, it's better to run in a straight line. It's why we don't zigzag in real life. You will have noticed. It slows you down. Anyway, reform on me right here. Best thing is we can break our formation while we're moving. We don't have to use that in battle or anything. It just helps everybody to keep a clear idea of where they're going and what they're doing. Alrighty, so second company, if you form behind the second section, if you form behind the first, so silver, everyone move across, yeah. But I think you missed the clarification before, but we decided we're going to switch that round yesterday to what we taught the chasseurs. So it's going to be that we're ignoring that like dumb left person rules thing. But yeah, so now if I tell you to move into firing order, front rank, you don't have to do anything. Amazing. Rear rank, you're going to step half a step to the right. And you should be able to see through the gaps of the people in front of you, just like Bert has done. There we go. Very nice. So now if we all take aim, here are some dummies. So everybody take aim and fire. Very nice. So yeah, don't worry if you're firing by accident. I prefer to use make ready, because if you press F, even from skirmish, you can just press F, left click and press F really quick. It doesn't really slow you down. It's just muscle memory sort of thing, and you'll learn it. Remember not to fire until you're told to, by the way, you two. And that's different to what we actually do in real battles. But when we're stood in line, as you can hear, the musket shots do get quite annoying from all the people behind us. But there we go. Right, so now we're going to move on to the combat part of things. We're going to keep using these sections, but now, instead of being in a line, you're just going to be in 2 different groups. Again, we're always going to try and keep first on the left and second on the right. But if you all follow me and break formation. Here we go. Remember, make sure you are acting first and thinking about mistakes and stuff while you're doing it. It's better to make a mistake and be corrected in depot than it is to wait until battle to make that mistake. So now what we're going to do is, if we come into this camp here, I'm going to say second section, so blue, you're going to take cover in those tents, and first section green, you're going to take cover in those tents over there. I'm being deliberately vague, because if the enemies are east of us, top of the screen to see the whatever. NCOs, if you all stand around with the flag, just so nobody gets confused. There we go. So now, first section, if you push up, you want to be using cover as best you can. So push upwards towards the east, using these tents as cover, so that way. There we go. And second section, if you push up, you can pretend to shoot invisible enemies if you want. There we go. Second section, push up. NCOs, stay back with the flag. You wonder why Georgia puts in the NCO limit. There we go. So make sure you're using cover and things like that. You two doing the Titanic at the end of the rock. It's very cute, but it's going to get you killed. It got them killed as well. All right, second section, make sure at the edge of your hill, and first section at the edge of yours. So those 2 of you that ran off, you're going to have to walk back and make sure you're staying in cover. If the enemies are east, these targets here, the guard are being some enemies for you, so you can practice against them or whatever. So Zendra, you want to be in cover because you're going to die very quickly standing out in the open. Now, these muskets are very accurate. Hopefully you can see that you can quite accurately put down shots into these targets, and you'll hit most of the time. If you're not hitting anything, try and aim a little bit higher. That's usually a good place to start. But now what I'm going to say is first section, so greens, you are going to push into the camp over at the left on the north. So you're going to go for that big drill square camp there. And then second section, you're going to push to the camp on the east, where the targets are. So first section, there are some enemies for you there. And second section, you're going to charge forwards into that other camp, using cover where you can. We don't just want to make a beeline. I know it's very difficult to imagine when you need to take cover and whatever in battle. In a training. It's much easier to do that in battle. Yeah, so that's that. I'm going to company blink us now. Actually, no, I won't. We're going to regroup by this tree. So if you look for me, as soon as you see me, you're going to follow. Well, we're going to come over to me or follow the rest of everybody moving. And when we regroup in combat, we're going to make sure that we're using cover. So if the enemy, I'm going to say the enemy are north, so you can all take cover. Cover basically means, to point out the obvious, that you are covered. This does not mean that me standing like this, I am not in cover, because it's not like in the movies where you can poke your head out and nobody will hit you. you have to take cover as if you are in like actual war, because people are actually trying to shoot you and things like that. And when we're regrouping and things like that, we really, really don't want to die. So your most important task right here is to stay in cover. If you're going to get any shots off, it needs to be like really, really quick, kind of suppressive shots, just to keep the enemy heads down. But now what I can say is everybody push across to the cliff face. You might also hear orders to like cancel reloads or
Also, yeah, never push up while reloading. If you're reloading, either you wait or you go in melee.
So you saw here, I'm in melee. Even I need to reload before I can shoot. So now I'm in cover, I can reload here while the officers stood still or whatever. This rock we can't climb up. So what we're going to have to do is push around this hill. So everybody push into that other camp. So there we go. And we can start moving up and taking cover behind these tents and whatever. Enemies are still north, we'll pretend. There we go. But do you reckon we need to show them how to stand inside a house?
How to stand inside a house?
Yeah, how to garrison a house. I think, yeah. So if you ever hear the order to garrison something, that means to cover it in yourself and to spread out across it, use all the available cover. If everybody has one tent to themselves, it means the enemy are going to have a really hard time picking out individuals to shoot, and everybody is going to die a lot less. If we were to all stand right here, literally on top of me, that makes it infinitely easy for everybody to kill me, and all of you, right? So in line battles, we have to line up because the rules, we won't be effective fighting force otherwise. But in skirmish battles like this, where you see the capture points, it's really, really important that you spread out and, be a cool individual person. Anyway, if you all regroup on me and just reform the line on me right here.
Oh, oops. Formed up on Izuki instead.
Completely trolled. There we go. Alrighty. This is a good time to point out as well. Carabiniers do not have the ability to change their pom-pom color. So Carabiniers are not reliable people to follow if you're trying to work out which line is which. You're going to have to look for the chasseurs with their colors. Carabiniers only get red. So, and same with Voltigeurs, of course, they only get yellow. They do get battalion pom-poms, but that's fine. All right, melee fighting practice. So melee is a very important part. Half of your gun is a gun, and about 10% of your gun is a gun, and the rest of it is all a spear, effectively. You can press X to enter the bayonet stance. We're going to have to kind of speed through this, because I don't want to drag you on for too long.
We can just learn how to blob fighting enemies, can't we?
Yeah, I was going to teleport, well, not teleport us, I was going to have to respawn us into battle, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so press X to enter the bayonet stance, and you can click to attack. However, if you hold down left click, you will charge up your attack, which is a much better idea, because this will do something like twice the damage for less than half the time. The charge speed will be reduced a little bit. It's a little bit long at the moment, especially if you've been fighting on campaigns. But trust me when I say it's always more useful to charge up and hit. Unless, obviously, they have enough health that you can one-tap them, whatever. So if you flick your camera up and down, you can change your stance. This doesn't matter at all. They're different animations, but they have the exact same stats, same time, and everything. Obviously, the reach is different just because it goes to a different place or whatever. I always use the overhead stance. I just find it easier to aim, especially in third person and things like that. And I like to zoom quite close to my character so that I can see the bayonet and things like that. And avoid looking straight down like this, because you'll see this makes my range a lot shorter. As best you can, you want to be aiming horizontally. So you can see here I've got the maximum range out my bayonet. When you're fighting laggy people, and if you're lagging yourself, this is a very useful tip. So when we're fighting in melee, fighting individually is a matter of skill. which in the eyes of your commander is not a good thing to gamble on because everybody's got a different level of skill. What we'll do instead is we maximize our advantage by, for every one enemy we fight, let me make him stand up straight. There we go. Like a man. Every one enemy we fight, we're going to bring 2 friendlies. Because that way, it becomes a lot higher than a 50-50 chance of winning. And we're more than likely to win that fight. Similarly, when we have a whole line of enemies, the best way to win this fight is we want to engage as few of them with as many of us as possible. So ideally, we'd be fighting these guys one by one, absolutely chewing through them with all of us. In practice, of course, that would never happen, but you'd be surprised. Some people are very silly, and you don't want to be one of those silly people that charges in by yourself, because when you're against something like this, you are going to die straight away. And not only have you wasted your own time, but you've also then removed a good soldier from the line. If we all fight like this together, then it's much more effective. So what we're going to do is we all stand right where I am in the bayonet stance, and we're all going to move in like a figure of 8 pattern. But we're gonna change it up every now and again. Go in a different direction or whatever. But all move around, pretend there are enemies about to attack us or whatever. There we go. This is a blob. This is what officers mean when they say form a blob or remember to go to the blob or whatever. Whenever you respawn and you die in melee and you respawn, you're going to respawn on the flag behind us, and then you're going to walk back into the blob before you start doing anything. You don't just like charge in or whatever, because you will die. Nice and methodical with our fighting is the best way. We can pick up speed as soon as we've taken advantage. So what will happen is we'll form our blob, and then you'll see the enemy start breaking. The officer will go push, 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 and everybody will run forward, basically. And you'll be able to just chew through everybody because you've now dropped the enemy line from 20 to 5. And then you cap their flag. Your officer says you are a beautiful person. And then you get all the validation you've ever wanted. And it's amazing. It's the dopamine rush of the Napoleonic Wars fighting. Anyway, so if you reform on me, this man, I'm actually going to have to say something to in-game. There we go. So just a few key pointers here. At the end of the day, you're here because you want to have fun. I don't care how altruistic you are about it. You want to have fun. You're here for the personal enjoyment. And also, the whole game is here for your personal enjoyment. So very, very much you should be using everybody else in the line to your advantage. If I am low health, there is no point in me being a hero and taking a hit from my friend, because that isn't fun. It's more fun to get kills. So if Bert's got full health, I'm going to hide behind Bert and try and steal all his kills. It's okay because we all do this. And it's not stealing, it becomes sharing. And it's amazing. We all get so many kills when we remember to human shield and things like that. A second thing is flicking attacks. I'm saying this now because I'm gonna drop you into a fight before I dismiss you. Flicking attacks, which I mean you basically attack, but then you wiggle your mouse at the end like that, means that if I miss like this, I can still drag it over somebody to hit them. So you just like wiggle your mouse at the end of your attack. It's a little bit disorienting, but it's very, very useful in fighting. I can't think of anything else really to say in the lines of that. But while we are walking over to other E now. Okay, we'll do it here first. Before we go into actual fight, I'm just going to explain what morale is. Now, morale hopefully hasn't changed for you in this whole battle because we've not been because we've not been battling. But morale is basically your soldier's willingness to fight, your character's willingness to fight. So if you have low morale, you will have very low damage output, sort of thing. You'll be less accurate with your musket and you'll be doing less damage with your bayonet. At 0 morale, this is really, really noticeable. You'll deal almost no damage with your musket and you'll barely be able to hit anything at range. At high morale, it'll be normal. It's like a 2-hit kill with the bayonet if you charge it up properly, or a 3-hit kill even. I can't remember. And easy to aim, whatever. That's how you've been fighting. Now we gain our morale back. In territorial mode, we stay near each other. We can fire off volleys if we need to, and we can chant. So to chant, if you hold down Q, you'll see a cool chant menu. You can click any of those to do a chant, and you'll see it'll flash a little icon sometimes in the bottom left that says chant bonus. That's not going to do much. So what we need to do is everybody stop chanting, and we're all going to chant at the same time, and we'll get a nice big chant bonus. So we need at least 10 people to do it at the same time, and every single person adds on like I don't know. It's exponential. I don't know what the exponential number is, but it's that. So if we all hold down Q and chant in 3, 2, 1, chant. There we go. You can see that lasting a lot longer, and that's actually giving us morale. Not that we can actually see that. So whenever we're doing the chant, you're going to hear 3, 2, 1, chant, and then you do the actual clicking of the button on the T in chant, basically. So yeah, don't say it until you hear the countdown and things like that. So again, also there's a 3-second cooldown, so you can't spam chants until your officer has told you to, basically. So chant in 3, 2, 1, chant. I think, I'm not entirely sure because I only know what I know, but I think every officer in the Tenny does it this way. Some lines do it differently if you're ever in like a public line or whatever. But in Tenny, you will always hear 3, 2, 1 chant. That is that. Okay, the flag behind us is a spawn point, basically. That's all you need to know. If it's too close to enemies get too close to it, we will not be able to spawn. That means we have to keep enemies away from our flag. We have to keep our flag away from enemies. Same thing. If enemies pick up our flag, we also cannot spawn, surprisingly enough, and they get to capture it. In campaigns mode, your only spawn is your flag, and if you lose your flag, it will respawn at the back of the map a minute later, and you have to walk all the way back. And you can just zoom your camera out and notice that you cannot see any of the nearly 200 people in this server. You know, maps are really big in this genre, so you don't want to be doing lots of walking. But in territorial, you'll be able to spawn on the flag if we've got one, or if it's safe, or any other point. So you might hear to spawn at the fort, like at the beginning, at the outpost, at A, B, C, D, whatever, or the flag, and things like that. And you can use your own map knowledge eventually to get a good idea of where you should spawn.